Your brain is not broken, it's just running the wrong program. For most of your life, someone, a parent, a teacher, a version of society installed one rule into your nervous system: be hard on yourself or you will fall behind. So today, when you try to be kind to yourself, it doesn't feel calming, it feels dangerous. Here are 6 reasons why you can't give yourself compassion and why none of them mean something is wrong with you. And after watching this, you are going to understand exactly why your inner critic exists, why yelling at it never works, and what actually does. I have spent years digging into psychology and self-development content, and this is one of those frameworks that once you see it, you genuinely cannot unsee it. It reframes something that feels like a personal feeling into something mechanical, almost predictable, and that changes how you deal with it. Let's get into it. Before we dive in, here's the one sentence that changes everything. Your inner critic isn't a personality flaw, it's a survival system doing exactly what it was built to do, just pointed at the wrong target. Once you get that, the rest of this makes a lot more sense. So keep that sentence in the back of your mind as we go through these 6 shifts, because every single one of them comes back to it. Tip number 1 is what I call the 3 brain split. Here's the thing nobody tells you about your mind. It's not one system, it is 3, and they are constantly competing for control of your attention, your mood, and your behavior. System 1 is your threat system. This is the oldest part of your brain, evolutionary speaking, and its entire job is to scan for danger and react fast. No time for nuance, no time for double checking, anxiety, anger, that gut punch feeling before a big meeting, the spike of dread when you see a notification from your boss. That's the system firing. It's fast, it's loud, and it's hijacked the rest of your mind when it activates. System 2 is your drive system. This is what gets activated when you are chasing something, a goal, a reward, recognition, achievement. It is the dopamine hit of hitting pause and watching the numbers climb. It feels good, but it's still a form of motion, of striving, of not there yet, but therefore, and this is the part almost nobody talks about, there is a third system, the soothing system. This is the one responsible for feeling calm, safe, and connected when nothing needs to be fixed, chased, or defended against. And here's the problem: most of us live our entire lives bouncing back and forth between threat and drive and barely ever land in soothing. Work is threat, scrolling is threat, deadlines are threat, checking your numbers is threat, comparing yourself to someone else's highlight reel is threat. Again, the soothing system barely gets switched on for most people, most days. This matters because when your soothing system never activates, your brain assumes it's always under some form of threat, and self-criticism is just your threat system. Turn inward, trying to protect you the only way it knows how to. It's not trying to hurt you, it's genuinely thinks it's helping. Clinical psychologist Paul Gilbert, who developed this 3 system framework, has spent decades studying exactly this, how these systems shape everything from anxiety, depression to body image, and how we talk to ourselves in the quiet moments. His research on compassion has become one of the most influential approaches in modern world, precisely because it treats self-criticism as a biological pattern rather than a character defeat. He often points out that none of us choose the brain we ended up with. You didn't pick your brain system, your sensitivities, or the way your nervous system happens to be wired. It was shaped by evolution long before you had any say in it, which is exactly why blaming yourself for having a loud threat system makes about as much as sense as blaming yourself for your height. Next time you notice yourself falling into self-attack, pause and ask which system is actually running the show. You will usually find it's threat just dressed up in a disguise of motivation or just being realistic. Think about how this plays out in a normal week. You wake up already anticipating everything that could go wrong that day. That's a threat. You push through anyway because you have got targets. Your body doesn't know how to switch systems, so the silence just gets filled with more threat, replaying an awkward conversation, worrying about a video's performance, picking apart something you said hours earlier. That's not you being weak. That's a brain that is genuinely forgetting what the third setting feels like because it's rarely given the chance to use it. Tip number 2 is bottom line technique. If you ever try to talk yourself out of insecurity with pure logic, you already know it doesn't work. You can list 10 reasons you are not a failure, and the critic just binds and irrelevant. You can point to evidence, achievements, guidings people have said, and somehow none of it lands. Why? Because the surface complaint was never actually the real issue in the first place. This is the bottom line. The deeper fear sitting quite underneath the surface level criticism, I'm not good enough, isn't really about your looks, your job title, or your last mistake at work. Take one layer down and then another, and you almost always find the same root fear waiting there, being seen as unlovable or unworthy. So here's a tactical shift you can actually use. Instead of arguing with the surface level thought, I am ugly, I am behind everyone else, I'm failing at this, ask what is actually protecting you from? What happens in your mind if these things were completely true? Usually the answer is some version of people will leave, people will judge me, I will end up alone. That's the bottom line. And here's why this matters so much. You cannot out argue a fear like that with facts and evidence, because facts were never what it was responding in the first place. You have to actually address the fear directly, not the surface story built on top of it. I have watched people spend months trying to fix the surface complaint. More achievements, more validation, more evidence stacked up, and still feel exactly the same underneath. Because the bottom line was never touched. It's like a repainting a wall to fix a crack in the foundation. Once you actually name the real fear out loud, something shifts, because you are no longer chasing an endless list of surface level proof. You are finally looking at the thing that was driving the whole search in the first place. Tip number 3 is body before mind. This one sounds almost too simple to matter, but the research behind is genuinely solid, and it's one of the fastest tools you can use in the world. Your nervous system doesn't fully separate imagination from reality, and it definitely doesn't separate posture and breathing from emotional state. Try this right now. Seriously, roll your shoulders back, open your chest slightly, and slow your breathing down. 5 seconds in, hold for 2, 5 seconds out. Do that for even 30 seconds, and your body starts sending a completely different signals up to your brain. I'm safe right now. This is called stimulating the vagus nerve, and it's directly tied to activating your soothing system on demand. The tactical takeaway here: you cannot always think your way out of a threat state using logic alone, but you can breathe your way into calmer psychological state almost immediately. Athletes and performers have used breathing techniques like this for decades before high pressure moments, not as some soft wellness threat, but because the underlying biology is well established. It's a thing you already have access to for free at any point in your day. What's interesting is how few people realize this works in both directions. Just like imagining something stressful can spike your heart rate and tense your shoulders without anything actually happening. Deliberately imagining someone calm combined with slower breathing can lower that same activation almost as fast. Your body is responsive to what you feed it. Whether that input is real or imagined, that's not a metaphor, that's how the system is wired. Tip number 4 is the internalize other. This one hit me hard the first time I learned it. Sometimes the voice in your head that tears you apart isn't actually originally yours. It's an ego, a parent voice, a bully's voice, a critical teacher or coach from a decade ago that got recorded at some point and now plays on a loop as if it were your own private thinking. The way to test this: ask yourself, whose voice does it actually sound like in tone and phrasing? Not is this true, but where did I first see something like this said to me? A lot of people are genuinely shocked the first time they realize their harshest inner critic sounds suspiciously specific, like an actual person from the past. Word by reframe is powerful, because the moment you notice that, you are no longer fighting yourself. You are recognizing and out recording for exactly what it is, something that was installed, not something that was born with you. And recordings, unlike core identity, can eventually be replaced with something new. Tip number 5 is the understand the critic. And this is one people resist the most. Every instinct tells you fight your inner critic head on. Argue with it, silence it, shame it into shutting up. It doesn't work. And here's the mechanism why attacking the attacker just adds more threat system activation on top of a system that's already overloaded. You end up in a fight with yourself using the exact same weapon that started the fight. Here's another move. Instead, talk to your inner critic the way you talk to a scared, overwhelmed friend who is lashing out because they're in pain, not shut up, but something closer to I hear you. I know you are trying to protect me from being hurt, but this approach is actually hurting me more than it's helping right now. You are not agreeing with the criticism itself. You are understand the fear sting underneath it, which is a completely different move. This isn't soft or passive, and I want to be really clear about that. It actually takes real courage to sit with painful part of yourself instead of numbing it, distracting from it, or fighting it off. That's the actual difference between compassion and just being nice to yourself. Compassion means turning toward pain with the genuine intention to help, not just to feel better for the next 5 minutes and move on. There is also a version of this that works well. If you are someone who processes things out loud or in writing, picture your critic as a separate character for a second. Give it a seat across from you. Ask it directly what is actually afraid will happen if it stops criticizing you. Let it answer almost every time underneath the harsh language. You will find something closer to the frightened, exhausted part of you than an enemy. That reframe alone, enemy to exhausted protector, is often enough to lower the intensity of whole exchange. Tip number 6 is the training the soothing system on purpose. You wouldn't expect to get physically strong after one trip to the gym, and you can't expect your soothing system to switch on reliably after one combat either. This is a trainable skill, not a personal trait, and skills need reps to actually stick. The tactical version: once a day, spend 60 seconds deliberately recalling a moment you genuinely helped someone, or a moment someone was authentically kind to you, not scrolling past the memory, actually sitting in it, letting your body register. This single habit, repeated daily over weeks, is one of the most well documented ways to strengthen the neural pathways tied to feeling safe and connected to others. The exact system that self criticism quietly shuts down every time it fires. The reason consistency matters more than intensity, but a small repeated signal sent to your nervous system every single day slowly convinces your brain that safety is actually available, not just theoretical. I will be honest with you, for a long time I thought being hard on myself was the actual reason I got anything done. I genuinely believe that if I let go for even a second, I will get lazy. I would stop improving. I would fall behind everyone else moving faster than me. Turns out I was just running on track constantly, and it was quietly stressful how I felt every single day, even on the days I technically won. Learning this framework didn't make me soft or kind. It made me actually functional in a way pure self-criticism never did, because it turns out fear is a terrible long-term fuel source, no matter how effective it feels in the short term. Your inner critic was never trying to destroy you. It was trying to protect you using only tool it has, which is fear. The goal was never silence it completely, because you probably can't, and fighting it just feeds it more energy. The real goal is to build a stronger, calmer voice underneath it, one that has the courage to actually face what you're afraid of and the wisdom to know how to help instead of attack. That voice isn't something you have to produce from nothing either. It is already in you. The same way it shows up automatically the moment a friend calls you upset. The work isn't creating it, it's learning how to switch in on for yourself. If this shifted how you think about your own inner critic, that's genuinely why I make this kind of content. This stuff isn't just to for me, it's the actual practice I keep coming back to whenever my own critic gets loud, and I would rather share what actually works than pretend. So if you like the video, please hit the like button. Thank you for listening. I love you.